Good evening, everyone. 5:03 PM. We will start our regular board meeting. Roll call, please, Ms. Amaker.
President Weinstein,
Present.
Vice President Wallach,
Aye. Here.
Clerk Wood,
Here.
Trustee Kelly,
Here.
Trustee Scott,
Here.
Trustee Kermode,
Here.
Trustee Napier's absent, Superintendent Larson Everson,
Present.
and I'm Idalia Amaker.
Thank you. Please stand and join me in the flag salute and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First item up is approval of the agenda. Is there any discussion regarding the agenda amongst the board? Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Kelly, I make the motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion carries. Oh. I can scream right at the start. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, general function. We have a superintendent update tonight?
We do. Good evening, everyone. Good to see everyone. It's a little bit shorter of a presentation this evening because we just had a board meeting and an update on the 14th. So I will jump right into it. Wanted to update you a little bit about summer school. Just give you a rundown of what we have in place. We've gotten off to a great start. Our extended school year, ESY, we had 215 students who were eligible to attend. We have 150 students enrolled for credit recovery and 145 students enrolled in elective coursework. And we're offering programs at Jacobson Middle School and Tompkins Elementary, and those students are being supported by 31 certificated team members and 85 classified team members. And then if you look up at the pictures there, I have a couple to share with you. Let's see. The first one that you see, the young man there, is enrolled in the business course, and he's created a poster about his business plan with a vision statement and marketing campaign. And then down on the bottom, you see a picture of a bacon and cheese quiche. This is from the elective cooking class. And then the last picture there on the upper right is Miss Lupe Cowan, who was helping her students create a globe. So again, we have 93 elementary students participating in enrichment and 52 middle school students taking enrichment classes, and that's in addition to the ESY and credit recovery. Next slide, please. Give you a quick update about TILA and the Saracosa Community College moves. Everything is going well. The end of the month obviously is fast approaching, and the moves and adjustments are going well. I remain in really close communication with Dr. Hancock from Saracosa Community College. And through the accounts of both of our teams, everything is going smoothly. Once the moves are completed, to accommodate both Saracosa and TUSD's needs, we're going to be bringing our teams together in late September, early October, just to continue further discussion about how our instructional programs can build on each other and we can strengthen our partnership going forward. Next slide, please. So we're preparing to launch Capturing Kids' Hearts. Just a little quick reminder for you that Capturing Kids' Hearts is that approach that we are embracing to help equip our teachers, coaches, staff, and students with tools to help improve student connectedness, school culture, increase accountability, and hopefully also improve our academic performance. So we have some upcoming dates. In late July, our management team will be getting together on the 28th and 29th. We're spending 2 days on capturing kids' hearts, and then we have teachers going through capturing kids' hearts 2 days of training on August 4th and 5th, as well as August 26th and 27th. So we're really excited about kicking this off and embracing the tenets of capturing kids' hearts. We feel that's really a good direction for us to be moving in as the school year starts. Next slide. So talking about coming back, we just left, I know, but we'll be doing our welcome back again. We're going to return to Central Park, and everybody seemed to like being outside last year. That was the first year we did it there, so that's where we will be to kick off the 22-23 school year, and looking forward to welcome everybody back on August 8th. Staff, that is. Students will be welcomed back on the 10th. And then finally, if you didn't get a chance at the last meeting to check out the bulletin boards here in the boardroom, those are just recognition of our employees who retired this year, as well as our employees of the year, both certificated and classified. So I'd encourage you just to walk by and take a peek at that. And then finally, our next regular board meeting is scheduled for August 9th, 5 o'clock here in this room. And just a side note, this is the last time you'll see this slideshow format, because for next year, we'll have a new one. Yeah, and that concludes my report for this evening.
Do you know what time the welcome back is?
I believe we're starting at 8:30, but I will
Okay.
clarify that for you. We let people start coming in around 8:30 because we provide some donuts and fruit and yogurt and things like that.
I was
And
there.
I know you were, so they can bring, some people want to come and bring their lawn chairs. We provide buses and van service from the school sites, and then we actually kick off the meeting around 9 o'clock.
Okay.
So anybody will be welcome to attend as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. TAT update. Do we have an update tonight? Welcome, Ms. Bowman.
Good evening, President Weinstein, members of the school board, Superintendent Larson Everson, and members of the public. I was once told by a previous superintendent that the mood of the school district reflects the mood of the community, which reflects the mood of the state, and finally the mood of the country. Our country is like a sea in a storm, as is our community. Some factors outside of TUSD control affect what could happen within our doors. Tonight, right now, is the last regular school board meeting of the 2021-22 academic year. TAT leadership is requesting tonight members of the board really listen to each other without interruption and set an example of cooperation and acceptance. Each of you is an elected leader representing many with the power to make positive change within the district and the community. Cooperative leadership and respectful dialogue will set an example for students, staff, and the community. In the meanwhile, many TAT members, while taking time for themselves, are also preparing for the future. This week, some teachers will be attending the Anaheim AVID Conference, learning about best instructional practices to be used with students in classrooms. Thousands of educators are attending this conference. Actually, some are in San Diego right now too, but not from our district. And this will allow our members to build networks, which will ultimately help with student success. Other members have been a part of hiring panels as new people join or move up in the ranks of the TUSD team. Some are changing positions and are preparing materials, while others are updating lessons for next year. There are boots on the ground members working as summer school moves forward. Thankfully, there's also time for rest, family, and a chance to regroup for the 22-23 school year, so teachers can bring the world to their classrooms. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bowman. CSEA update. Okay, PTO update tonight. Okay, moving on to board communication. Trustees, do you have any communication you would like to share? Okay, I think we're good. Let's move on then to public comments. Public comments will be allowed. The board president will recognize any member of the audience wishing to speak on items that are not on the agenda, but are directly related to school business. Pursuant to Board Bylaw 9323, we may limit comments to no more than 3 minutes per person. Public comment will also be allowed on a specific action item prior to the board taking action. The president will allot time to those wishing to speak, but no action will be taken on matters presented, and no discussion of non-agenda items will occur. If appropriate, the president or any member of the board may direct the matter to be referred to the superintendent's office for possible placement on a future agenda. We do have at least one public comment. If you have a public comment you want to make now, or if you have something related to a specific action item, you can wait to that action item, but I will start with Mr. Kaminsky.
Good evening, Board. First, I'd like to congratulate Ms. Ray and Ms. Markison on their promotions to be proved on later this evening. I wish both the best as they begin a new chapter in their careers. It's very exciting. Tonight, I'm commenting on the lack of real transparency with the by-trustee areas. The first public hearing on May 10th brought only 2 public attendees. In Attorney Leone's presentation at the June 16th meeting, she devoted a section towards, quote, informational items, public outreach, end quote. In that section, one slide mentioned notifications done on Parent Square and Facebook concerning meetings that have taken place to date. There is no information on the May 10th and May 17th meeting notifications being sent out via Parent Square and/or Facebook. That could explain the poor attendance at the May 10th meeting, especially with no parents present. One would think at least one parent, especially an elementary parent, would be able to attend as their elementary-age children were all in school at 2 in the afternoon. The posting of a letter on the district website might satisfy legal notification requirements, but not what one would consider full transparency. It is understood that the first hearing was not a board meeting. But while the microphones and Zoom technology were being used, there is no recording listed on the district website. That's not very transparent, is it? If it was available, concerned citizens could hear my question for Dr. Levitt, asking if this time would be good to change attendance boundaries. They would also hear his answer, that it would complicate matters, and complicating the process should be avoided. There was also the schedule for the process. It began with the public hearing on the 10th and ended with the election on the maps in November 2024. Ms. Leone was very clear that the 2022 election would be under the current 3-area map, that all those elected would serve their full 4-year term, and that the November 2024 election would be with a new by-trustee area map. In addition, the district would be in safe harbor from litigation as the process had been initiated. Everything was made clear. Then, as stated in the Tehachapi News article by Claudia Elliott last Wednesday, quote, a proposal to reduce the board size from 7 to 5 emerged sometime before the board's May 17th special meeting. It is not clear how the proposal came before the board, end quote. A look at that night's agenda shows no mention of a reduction of trustees, no public discussion, not even a comment by a board member during board communications. Something had to be discussed after the May 10th meeting and the publishment of the board agenda on Monday, May 16th. There on the 17th agenda is an accelerated timeline and a reduction in trustees being proposed. Dr. Levitt's advice to not complicate matters was essentially trashed. By putting
One
both...
more minute, Paul.
No problem. By putting both on the agenda, Board President Weinstein and Superintendent Larson Everson must have decided together that they know best, that the public's right to know can be ignored, that there is no need to be truly transparent. Also, the agenda includes the waiver application to the State Board of Education that, if granted, would allow the board to make the reduction instead of the citizens of Tehachapi. All of this points to why VP Wallach stated in one of his emails, in protest to what appears to be off-agenda discussion in the closed session of May 10th, of no report out of that closed session by President Weinstein, his complaint, in all caps, the fix is in. One more paragraph. My public comment to be given tomorrow with the Kern County Committee on School Organization is for the current plan to be denied. TUSD must start over to the original plan suggested by Dr. Levitt and Ms. Leone after this hot mess, unnecessary due to the duplicity of President Weinstein and Superintendent Larson Everson. Doing so might satisfy the consequences of a court's finding of a Brown Act violation if the Kern County District Attorney takes up the complaint. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comment? Okay. Okay, we'll move on to item 5, the consent agenda. All consent agenda items are considered to be routine by the Board of Trustees and will be taken together as one action item. There will be no separate discussion of items unless a board member so requests. If it is determined that an item needs to be pulled for a separate motion, the board president will call for a separate vote. Are there any questions or comments from the board regarding the consent agenda? Questions or comments from the public? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Second?
Kelly. Kelly, a
Thank you.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6, Superintendent Larson Everson?
Thank you. Item 6.1 is approval of the 2022-2023 LCFF budget, 2022-2023 LCFF budget overview for parents, supplement to annual update for 21-22 LCAP, and the 2022-2023 local control accountability plan.
Thank you for reading that for
You're
me. You did
welcome.
that better than I would have.
No worries. Okay, so as we're all aware, the LCAP is a 3-year plan, but it's also an opportunity for school districts, and particularly for us here in TUSD, to share our story about how, what, and why programs and services are selected to meet our needs here for our students. We have worked in consultation with management analysts from Kern County Superintendent of Schools in the development of the LCAP document, as well as with a variety of educational partners and stakeholder groups here locally in TUSD. I know at the last board meeting on the 16th, you heard an extended presentation and information about the LCAP, and we all recognize what a critical tool and guiding document this is for our district. The district is required to seek the board's approval of the document so that we can then submit it to Kern County Superintendent of Schools prior to July 1. And so we submit this item before you this evening for your consideration and hopefully approval. Thank you.
Questions or comments from the board on the 2022-23 LCFF budget overview? Any questions or comments from the public? Do I have a motion to approve agenda item 6, number 1, approval of the LCFF budget overview for parents, the supplement to the annual update, and the 2022 local control accountability plan?
Kelly, make the motion.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. No, this is a roll call vote. Roll call vote, Ms. Amaker.
President Weinstein,
Aye.
Vice President Wallach,
Aye.
Clerk Wood,
Aye.
Trustee Kelly,
Aye.
Trustee Scott,
Aye.
Trustee Kermode,
Aye.
Thank you. Now motion carries. Moving on to agenda item 6, number 2, which is approval of resolution June 4, 22, to extend short-term employment classification and authorization approving such contracts. Superintendent?
Yeah, thank you, President Weinstein. So TUSD has implemented some temporary positions over the course of COVID to help us provide the services and supports related to COVID-19 testing and documentation. So currently, the state requires those staff members who are unvaccinated to test weekly. And based on the information that we have at this time, it looks that weekly testing is going to carry forward into the next school year. So given the circumstances that we have and our need to continue providing, the COVID testing and support in this capacity, we'd like to continue providing 3 short-term classified employees to help navigate this moving forward. Thank you.
Any questions or comments from the board? Any questions or comments from the public? Do I have a motion to approve item 2, approval of resolution June 4, 22, to extend short-term employment classification and authorization to approve such contracts?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Second?
Kelly, a second.
Thank you. This is a roll call vote. Ms. Amaker?
President Weinstein,
Aye.
Vice President Walek,
Aye.
Clerk Wood,
Aye.
Trustee Kelly,
Aye.
Trustee Scott,
Aye.
Trustee Kermode,
Aye.
Number 3, memorandum of understanding for Tehachapi Unified School District and California School Employee Association Chapter 466 regarding campus supervisors.
Thank you, President Weinstein. This MOU allows for the continued increase in hours for campus supervisors to support student supervision at both JMS and THS. The caliber and continuity of supervision have been improved with the implementation of these full-time positions as opposed to part-time positions, which were previously in place. We do have agreement with CSEA in favor of this memorandum, and I hope you will vote to continue this increased support. Thank you.
Questions and comments from the board?
Kelly has a question. Why am I talking to myself in the third person? The last we talked about supervisors were jackets or self-identification clothing. Will that be in place for next school year?
Sorry. You're referring to yourself in third person, and I can't turn my mic on. We ordered them vests so that they are identifiable on campus. Is that what you were asking, was
Well-
the jackets?
And, well, and we anticipate them for 22, 23
Yes.
school year? Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Mine's just a formatting question. The version of the agenda I'm looking at online has the library clerk's MOU attached to this agenda item.
Let me check, because there's two separate MOUs. So let's see, we're on item 3.
Yeah, I'm showing the same attachment on 3 and 4.
Interesting. I see that on this item, but I have not checked the other one, so let me check real fast. You are correct, Mr. Kermode. The attachment for both, it looks like, was just a clerical error that we have here. Myself, I probably didn't attach, well, I didn't attach the correct one. So let me see. Go back to number 3. I know it's labeled that way, but I still want to verify that it's the incorrect one. And it is. We repeated the same one for both. Not just the name of the document, but the actual item itself. So that's tricky.
So it is two separate MOUs.
They are two separate MOUs. One addresses the increase in hours for the campus supervisors. We created this past year for the 21-22 school year, full-time positions instead of multiple part-time positions. And that is what is addressed in item 3. And then item 4 relates also to an MOU that increases the service hours for our mod severe special ed paraprofessionals as well as library clerks.
Could we procedurally delay this item while someone obtains the correct MOU so that we can get it handled tonight?
I think we could do that. If we take a break, we can correct that right now.
Okay, let's take a 5-minute break. It's 5:28. We'll reconvene at 5:33.
My apologies.
Okay. We are reconvening at 5:33 PM. Back to item 3, the Member of Understanding for Tehachapi Unified School District and California School Employee Association, Chapter 466, regarding campus supervisors. We now have the correct supporting document. I'll just give everyone a minute to look that over if there are any questions from the board.
Again, my apologies. I think this is a unfortunate error on my part. Thank you.
And any questions from the public? Do I have a motion to approve this memorandum?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Second, trustee Wally. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 4, Memorandum of Understanding for Tehachapi Unified School District and California School Employee Association, Chapter 466, regarding library clerks and special education paraprofessionals supporting severely handicapped students.
Thank you, President Weinstein. And this is the correct attachment that goes with item 4. This agreement provides the district the opportunity, again, to continue the increased work hours for our special education paraprofessionals who serve in mod severe classrooms. We had a variety of hours, anywhere from 5 to 6.5, depending on their placement previously. And we put them all at 6.5 hours for this current school year that we're just finishing now. And that was an effective strategy for us in increasing support to those students. And that was an outcome that came from working with the Special Education Action Planning team following the SSC report. So we'd like to continue that. And also, we raised the level of core library support to all schools. Again, they had varying hours for the 3 elementaries. And with this agreement, all the library clerks will be consistent at 6.0 hours per day and provide equivalent support to all elementary. So these small adjustments do increase support for our students, and we'd like to continue this practice. Thank you.
Okay, questions and comments from the board?
I have a
Trustee
question.
Kelly.
And Superintendent, I don't know that you'll have the answer off the top of your head, and I don't want to hold you to that. Do we know what percentage of those, the mod severe aides or paraprofessionals, took that opportunity to increase their hours?
Off the top of my head, I'm going to tell you it was very nearly 100%. There were a couple, I think that it was all offered based on seniority. We follow the contract, and when there's an increase in hours, it goes based on seniority. Most of the people that serve in those positions are quite senior, so there was just a few that didn't want an increase in hours, but they ended up rolling into other positions that had equivalent hours, if
Okay.
I'm not mistaken.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Questions or comments from the public? Do I have a motion to approve this memorandum?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Superintendent. Now we will move on to the new business, now to business. Welcome, Mr. Antazari. Item number 1, we have approval of resolution number June 522, the Education Protection Account 2022-2023.
Thank you very much, President Weinstein. School districts, county offices, and charter schools receive funds from the EPA, the Education Protection Act funds, based on proportionate share of the statewide local control funding formula. So it's required that the governing board adopt a resolution that details the intended use of these funds. So as always, the proposed 22-23 budget that is assuming $10,039,283 worth of EPA funds will go towards salaries and benefits for teachers for our district. And with your approval, we seek your approval for this resolution, or adoption of the resolution. My apologies.
Thank you. Questions and comments from the board? Questions or comments from the public? Do I have a motion to approve resolution number 05, June 22, the EPA 2022-2023 document?
Kelly, I make the motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Excuse me, President Weinstein.
Resolution, roll call vote.
Requires a roll call vote.
Thank you. Roll call vote, Ms. Amaker?
President Weinstein.
Aye.
Vice President Wallach.
Aye.
Clerk Wood.
Aye.
Trustee Kelly.
Aye.
Trustee Scott.
Aye.
Trustee Kermode.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 2, another resolution, June 6, 2022, committed fund balance. Mr. Antazari.
Thank you very much, President Weinstein. The current state's enacted budget provides deposits into the Proposition 98 Rainy Day Fund. So this is the fund that affects school district funding. That brings the balance to $6.4 billion, which triggers a local reserve cap for the 22-23 fiscal year. We touched on this a little bit, but to kind of recap, because the proposed budget from the governor makes an additional deposit, we're going to be seeing these reserve caps, which means that we cannot have more than 10%. If you refer to District Board Policy 1300, it details that when reserve balances reach these levels, the district budget shall not contain a combined assigned or unassigned ending general fund balance that is in excess of 10% of these funds. An assigned fund balance is just of our funds, of our reserves left over. I can assign a fund. Anything that's not assigned, anything that's not in any other restriction is considered unassigned. But the next level would be a commitment. So because the district has historically assigned funds for the purpose of maintaining a 9% reserve, the minimum is 3%. We reserve this for economic uncertainties and for the purposes of other known obligations such as textbooks, educational technology, and as well as the unfunded portion of the other post-employment benefits liability. So in order to commit the fund balance, this will ensure that the district's 9% reserve cap for economic uncertainty is maintained, and that way we don't compromise the remainder of the district's fund balance either being required to be spent down or returned to the state. So we seek your approval to adopt this resolution.
Questions or comments from the board on the resolution? Any questions or comments from the public? Do I have a motion to approve the resolution?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call vote, Ms. Amaker?
President Weinstein.
Aye.
Vice President Wallach.
Aye.
Clerk Wood.
Aye.
Trustee Kelly.
Aye.
Trustee Scott.
Aye.
Trustee Kermode.
Aye.
Motion carries. Business item 3, approval of Tehachapi Unified School District budget for the 2022-2023 fiscal year.
Thank you very much, President Weinstein. At the June 14th regular board meeting, we presented the budget. It was based on estimates before the California state budget was officially enacted yesterday. But based on the feedback, there were no changes. We do anticipate coming back with a 45-day revision in order to get a true figure of what the actual budget enactment at the state level means for Tehachapi Unified. So just to remember, just to recap for the 22-23 proposed budget, we estimate a combined revenue of $62 million with combined expenditures of restricted and unrestricted programs of $64.37 million, resulting in about $2.37 million in deficit spending projected for the 22-23 year. But that does not include the amounts that we are expecting, about $9 million from the enacted budget. So we the estimates will be updated and will no longer have any deficit spending. We'll actually project a surplus that will help us carry out the remainder of the year. So this budget that we propose shows that we are able to meet our obligations for not only the 22-23 year, but the next 2 years after that, which is a condition of requirement for at the state and county level in order for them to approve our budget, which means that we are in good fiscal health. So we seek your approval for the adoption of this budget.
Thank you. Questions, comments from the board? Trustee Wallach?
Just out of curiosity, how many years do you project out?
Typically, you would do the fiscal year that you're in and then 2 years out. So because we were adopting a budget, it was technically 3 years, the 22-23 year, 23-24, and 24-25.
And how do we look 3 years out?
Good, with the additional help from the state.
But without the additional help, how do we look?
Not as good, but
Okay.
we anticipated this help, and that's why we had to include it as part of the 45-day revision, just like every district in the state of California.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Mr. Intezari, on page 2 of the attachment, there's a table, and there are several items, and they say met and not met. Should we be concerned about the items that are marked not met? Items number 4, 6A, 6B, and 7.
1 second, let me pull up my budget and we can go over those. But no, it's common to have them met and not.
I can read it. So the first one is projected change in LCFF revenues within the standard for the budget and 2 subsequent fiscal years, and that one was marked not met.
Sorry, which number?
That would be number 4.
Yes, so we're not going to have our projections are not going to be similar to what our LCFF has been because we're anticipating a higher COLA. It's not going to be consistent in the past. It's going to vary very much so. So there are certain items that it's not saying that the criteria being met or not met does not mean, it's not like a pass or fail. It's more of a requiring additional information. So for example, one of the questions would be, do you have a new superintendent or a new chief business officer within the last 2 years? And so if you do have a new one, then you have to explain kind of what you're doing to ensure continuity of the current fiscal trajectory.
Okay, so similar 6A, other revenues, because of all the one-time monies, the projected revenues aren't within the standard because it's unique.
Very much so. The standard is something like 2%. We are very much in a world where 2% is too slim of a margin, and we are definitely going to be going outside of our, of that boundary.
Okay, that satisfies my questions. Thank you.
Other questions, comments from the board? Questions, comments from the public? Do I have approval of the Tehachapi Unified School District budget for the 2022-2023 fiscal year? Roll call vote, please, Ms. Amaker.
I'll make the motion.
Oh,
I'll second.
thank you. Roll call vote, please, Ms. Amaker.
President Weinstein?
Aye.
Vice President Wallach?
Aye.
Clerk Wood?
Aye.
Trustee Kelly?
Aye.
Trustee Scott?
Aye.
Trustee Kermode?
Aye.
Motion carries, thank you. Business item 4, approval of agreement between Zenith and TUSD for athletic safety equipment.
Thank you, President Weinstein. The Tehachapi High School Athletic Department has proposed an agreement with Zenith, an athletic safety equipment company, for leasing football helmets. The agreement for the lease is for 50 Zenith Shadow helmets, which is a 5-star safety rated helmet. The cost of the helmet leasing program through Zenith is $5,750 per year over 5 years for a total cost of $28,750, and this will be paid out of the budget allocated to the Tehachapi High School athletics. We seek your approval for this agreement.
Questions or comments from the board? Did you have a question, Trustee Wallet?
No, just waiting to vote.
Oh, I just have a question. Does the agreement with them, because it's leased, include like, what am I trying to say? Them taking responsibility if the units fail in any way?
Yes, so I can get more details specifically, but the purpose of the leasing program instead of owning is there's multiple benefits to it.
newest and
But
latest
ensuring
would be
that they
one.
are, yes, so we go through with, typically we do get helmets that we recondition, and sometimes if they are salvageable, they will be reconditioned, otherwise they get thrown away. But with this program, we are entitled to 50 helmets. If they cannot be reconditioned, they are replaced. And this will ensure that we're in compliance with all of the safety requirements, and which are really important when it comes to football, and just the added benefit of new helmets. And although it doesn't, you might be able to save money if you had purchased the helmets outright and kind of manage them individually, this at least ensures that we will be getting new, consistent replenishment of helmets, and we don't have to question whether or not this is, going to be usable or not. We just submit them for recertification, and either we get back the improved helmet or a brand new one.
Great, thank you. Any other questions, comments from the board? Questions or comments from the public? Mr. Kaminsky.
Ojed, who is the manufacturer? They're the manufacturer?
They are the
Okay, that's all my question. I thought it was Burdell or one of the other more common.
Any other questions, comments from the public? Do I have a motion to approve the agreement between Zenith and TUSD for athletic safety equipment?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Second?
Kelly?
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Business item 5, approval of agreement between the City of Tehachapi and the Tehachapi Police Department and Tehachapi Unified School District for the position of School Resource Officer for 2022-2023 through 2024 to 2025. Mr. Intezari.
Thank you, President Weinstein. A school resource officer is a sworn officer assigned to a school district on a long-term basis, and they're trained in a diverse and important roles such as law enforcement, counseling, and law education. Previously, our terms with the Tehachapi Police Department for a school resource officer were to cover 70% of the cost of salary and benefits for the officer over 10 months. According to a letter that we received from the Chief of Police, due to increased demands placed on the police department and additional budget challenges experienced by the City of Tehachapi, they're requesting that the agreement be to cover 100% of the cost of the SRO, but still over the 10-month period that covers when school is in session. The agreement terms would be for 3 years from the beginning of the 2022 school year to the end of the 2024-2025 school year, for an amount not to exceed $110,000 per year. We cover the actual cost of the officer, so the $110,000 estimate is based on our previous officer who was a bit higher ranking than your average police officer, but that's what we anticipate being about $110,000 per year. We cover 100% of the cost of salaries and benefits, 50% of any training that we previously agreed to cover, but other than that, everything else is covered by TPD. We seek your approval for this MOU.
Questions or comments from the board? Trustee Kelly?
Okay, so I'm guessing that this was, we had prior notice to this letter coming over, at least I would hope so. I don't need an answer to it, it's just me talking. How many hours a day or a month or a week do we get, because 30% is a huge number, right? So what are we getting additionally from last year?
I think the way it was more phrased to us is that we're going to continue to get the same level of support. We have a very close connection with TPD. We reach out to them whenever we have any safety-related issue. I think the superintendent could speak more to the relationship with TPD, but they do provide a lot. So I think this was more for them to not have to absorb a cost due to their financial position. They think that it was fair that we cover 100%. So the expectation is that we get 100%. They do address our needs. They don't, this is definitely not a department that would not answer a call because they were over the 70% allotment, but this is just in their perspective fair to cover the full cost of the SRO. But our expectation is that we do get a consistent officer that responds and is in alignment with our expectations.
Okay, so let me try it this way. We basically have them for what, 180 days? Is that every student day? Is that what we
We're
basically?
paying for 10 months of them being on our campus for their full 8-hour shift.
Okay. And-
But we're just, instead of paying 70% of that cost, we're now
No.
we're asking to pay 100% of that cost because we still want that support.
And I get that. I'm not disputing any of this, other than 30% is a huge increase. And I get it that we do need the SRO, and we could probably use another one. I totally agree with that. But it's kind of like, so if we're paying 100% for 10 months, if there is an alarm go off, this officer, do we change something internally? I mean, we're getting 8 hours a day, which, are we getting 8 hours a day? That's what you said, but are they actually
We're
there
getting that,
8 hours?
actually, we get beyond that because they come and support soccer games, high school basketball, high school football. They're there when we need us. And I just got confirmation from the chief yesterday that when we have our active shooter training in August, that they're going to ensure that they have multiple officers present and attending with our staff. So those are things that are outside of, regular school hours and regular school days, and they provide that support.
Okay, so I'm assuming that that's not really changing. We got that before, and now we're just covering more of the cost. That's really what it boils down to.
That's correct. Their budget is impacted, and so they're not able to pick up the cost of that 30%. They'll still have to pay that officer's salary and benefits for the other 2 months of the year that they're not providing direct support to our school campus, but that's our agreement that we've put forward at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Wallach had a question.
Yeah, it's my understanding if there's an emergency in the community, that SRO will be pulled off to attend that emergency. Is that correct?
They could be, depending on the magnitude of the
Yeah, if it's
emergency.
like an emergency that would require additional police
Correct,
response, they will be pulled off our campus.
They could be,
Yeah.
yes. And
Right.
we pull other officers in addition to the SRO when we have, likewise, if we were to have an emergency. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments from the board? Go ahead. No. Any questions, comments from the public? Do I have a motion to approve this agreement?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Business item 6, memorandum of understanding for TUSD and the Rural Community Assistance Corporation regarding drinking water solutions for schools Golden Hills Elementary, Tompkins Elementary, and Jacobson Middle School.
Thank you, President Weinstein. Yes, the Rural Community Assistance Corporation is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that serves rural communities through assistance and advocacy. Through the State Water Resource Control Board's Drinking Water for Schools initiative, Golden Hills Elementary, Tompkins Elementary, and Jacobson Middle School have qualified for awards totaling $139,965 for the purposes of implementing and installing water filling stations at each of these schools near eating areas in order to promote drinking, increased water consumption for students. The RCAC was awarded the $139,965, but this comes at no cost to the district, and we seek your approval for this agreement.
Thank you. Questions? Trustee Wallach?
Any reason THS wasn't included?
The requirements had to deal with income and being based in a rural area. So these are 3 schools qualify as our Title I schools. So THS in Cummings Valley unfortunately did not qualify. We did try for THS and maybe in a different round, but currently we were only able to get those 3 schools.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments from the board?
I do want to clarify that we will be adding water filling stations at CV and THS over the summer, though. It was just not funded by this grant.
Any questions or comments from the public? Do I have a motion to approve this MOU?
Kelly, I make the motion.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Business item 7, approval of professional services agreement between Tatiana Vetko Lawson, I tried, MSCCC-SLP, and Tehachapi Unified School District for speech pathologist services.
Thank you, President Weinstein. Mrs. Tatiana Shvetko-Lawson is a licensed speech-language pathologist, and as an independent contractor, she will be expected to perform virtual speech and language assessments for single and group sessions, review academic records, and attend meetings as necessary. Additionally, Mrs. Lawson will be providing supervision and support for other TUSD speech staff, as she has her certificate of clinical competence, which we call the 3 Cs. This agreement would be effective July 1, 2022 through June 30, 2023 at the same rate of $140 per hour. The total cost of the contract is for an amount not to exceed $100,000 in services and will be funded by the budget allocated to the Special Education Department for Professional Services. We seek your approval of this agreement.
Questions or comments?
Yes, will she be 100% virtual?
Not 100%.
Because I saw that she provide supervision and support for TUSD speech staff, so I was wondering how that was going to work if she was just virtual.
Sure. While Dr. Romero's coming up too, so in the past, we've already had a contract with Ms. Lawson over the course of the past year, and she's provided some of her support services on campus as well as virtual. But the component of providing supervision and support to our staff, in the past, we have done an independent contract with a former retired TUSD employee who was 100% virtual, never coming onto campus. And so the only difference there is Ms. Lawson will be supporting students and supporting staff.
Okay, one more question. So our SPED director won't be supervising our SLPs anymore? It'll be this lady?
So our SPED director is here. Well, I thought he was here. He just left.
So the way it works is because she has the clinical competence, the 3 Cs, she is a licensed speech pathologist. So we have, you will see on your agenda, 3 speech pathologists we want to bring on board that require this supervision, similar to what we passed this past year for our social workers. I don't know if you recall that, where they needed to have someone supervising their work hours to make sure that everything is okay.
Dr. Romero, that's separate supervision, though, from their supervision under an administrator or supervisor here in the district. We're talking to apples and oranges kinds of supervision, right? So the speech pathologist will still have supervision by their supervisor that is using the CBA or the bargaining agreement agreed upon evaluation format and process. But that's separate from the program requirements that help them continue their pathway towards full certification and experience.
That is correct.
One more question. Will she be participating as an as-need basis, part-time or full-time basis?
It's basically until we either exhaust her amount of contract, but she has been coming this past year on site, especially for cases that are in due process, a little more complicated. She has been available to our district to come on site to work through those cases. She is expected to come on site as needed, especially when supervision is needed to go through certain cases with our waiver candidates. The other item is we really want to add SLPAs, which are speech language assistants. So because she is licensed, she would be able to carry those SLPAs underneath her license. So if services needed to happen, say a speech pathologist is absent, but services still need to happen and there's lessons, as long as they're carried under her license, they will be able to do that with her additional guidance.
Any other questions and comments from the board?
Yeah. So at this point, it looks like we're, with Tatiana, we're going to be at 4 speech total. I believe this time last year, or at the beginning of the year, we're at 5.5. Are we anticipating, if you look at the previous employee as 0.5, right? We had 5. Am I mistaken?
You are. I
Okay.
do recall when I came in, we had 3.5, and then it was my first or second meeting where we looked at adding a agency contractor to help with the elementary load. We found that that didn't quite work out as well, so that's why we dropped that agency. And we have now, if they're approved this evening, we would have 4.5. So we actually have 4 full-time that would be available, plus the half person that we're still using retired to help with caseloads at the preschool level.
Right, but with the 2 virtual last year and then the 3 on site, right? We didn't start the year that way, but at some point we had 2 virtual and then 3 in person and then a half, correct?
No, there were 3 on site,
Uh-huh.
and then the ones virtual are only half. So they only
Okay.
added to 1.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, comments? Trustee Scott? Any questions or comments from the public? Do I have a motion to approve this professional services agreement?
I'll
Al-
make the motion.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Business item 8, approval of payment for excess workdays under paragraph 3 of the superintendent's employment contract dated April 9, 2019, amended August 11, 2020, and October 13, 2020. Mr. Antazari.
Thank you, President Weinstein. The superintendent's employment contract states under paragraph 3 titled Workdays that the superintendent shall work 226 days during each fiscal year excluding district holidays and weekends. For the 21-22 fiscal year, the superintendent worked 236 days, which is 10 days in excess of the contracted number of working days. You might seem long ago, but when we came into the school year, the COVID-19 pandemic was still in full swing, and there was other critical district needs. The superintendent requests that the board's authorization to be compensated at her daily rate for $764.71 for the additional 10 days of work performed in excess of the contract of the 21-22 fiscal year.
Question or comments from the board? Any questions or comments from the public? Do I have a motion to approve the payment of excess workdays?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call vote, Ms. Amaker.
President Weinstein?
Aye.
Vice President Wallach?
Aye.
Clerk Wood?
Aye.
Trustee Kelly?
Aye.
Trustee Scott?
Aye.
Trustee Kermode?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Business item 9 is approval of declaring certain district property as surplus obsolete at Cummings Valley.
Thank you, President Weinstein. Cummings Valley is requesting that these broken or obsolete items be declared surplus and properly disposed of with your approval.
Questions or comments from the board? Any questions or comments from the public? Do I have a motion to declare certain district property as surplus obsolete at Cummings Valley?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Roll call vote, Ms. Amaker.
President Weinstein,
Aye.
Vice President Wallach,
Aye.
Clerk Wood,
Aye.
Trustee Kelly,
Aye.
Trustee Scott,
Aye.
Trustee Kermode,
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Business item 10, approval of declaring certain district property as surplus obsolete at Tehachapi High School.
Thank you, President Weinstein. The Tehachapi High School is also seeking to remove these broken or obsolete items so we were seeking your approval to declare them surplus so they can be disposed of with your approval.
Questions or comments from the board? Any questions or comments from the public? Do I have a motion to approve certain district property as surplus obsolete at Tehachapi High School?
I'll make the motion.
Kelly, a second.
Thank you. Roll call vote, Ms. Amaker.
President Weinstein,
Aye.
Vice President Wallach,
Aye.
Clerk Wood,
Aye.
Trustee Kelly,
Aye.
Trustee Scott,
Aye.
Trustee Kermode,
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 11, approval of declaring certain district property as surplus obsolete at the Tehachapi High School Library.
Yes, thank you, President Weinstein. The Tehachapi High School Library is seeking to declare certain textbooks, most of which were purchased in 2003 or have been damaged, to declare them surplus and properly dispose of them with your approval.
Questions or comments from the board? Trustee Wallach?
Yeah, I have a question. When I looked at the list, virtually every single one of those books was purchased in 2003. Was it a coincidence, or are they just purging that year?
I would have to look into that.
I thought it was a coincidence. Interesting.
Any other questions, comments from the board? Questions, comments from the public? Do I have a motion to declare this property as surplus or obsolete?
Kelly, I make the motion.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call vote, Ms. Amaker.
President Weinstein,
Aye.
Vice President Wallach,
Aye.
Clerk Wood,
Aye.
Trustee Kelly,
Aye.
Trustee Scott,
Aye.
Trustee Kermode,
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Antazari. Appreciate it. We'll now move on to agenda item 8, instructional services. Welcome, Mrs. Paxton.
Good evening. So tonight I am just giving an overview of our universal pre-K plan. I presented that back in May, and tonight you have the completed plan attached to the agenda. Okay. So California Department of Education is extending the transitional kindergarten program. It's extending the birthdays to include more students in TK. Kindergarten now will become a 2-year program going forward. And the purpose of this is to disrupt inequities that exist and promote equitable opportunities for early learners. And so transitional kindergarten is just one of the efforts included in this initiative. It also includes Head Start, state-funded preschools, family child care, private child care centers, community-based organizations, and before and after school programs. But our plan discusses the extension of transitional kindergarten. And so again, this slide reviews the changes that we will see in transitional kindergarten going forward up until 25-26. The birth dates extend each year, and the class sizes adjust. So beginning next year, class sizes have to have a 1-to-12 ratio, up to 24 students in a classroom. And then the average for the class, it continues to be 24, but it's a 1-to-10 ratio between 10 students to every 1 adult. And so by the time we get to 25-26, all students who are 4 by September 1st will be included in transitional kindergarten, which is a pretty big difference from where we are now. And so the change in transitional kindergarten is also a change in the program as well. It really focuses on giving our youngest students hands-on experiences, social interactions. The playground is viewed also as an extension of the classroom. So it's really just kind of going back to that preschool, kindergarten program where students are really active and engaged in tactile learning. And that is it. So that was just an informational item.
Thank you, Mrs. Paxton. Well done. I'm really glad to see we're going to be able to offer this. I think it's a really good thing to start school earlier. This is an information item, but are there any comments, questions from the board?
Has the state, I haven't heard, has the state approved the pre-K or the TK or pre-K 3 credential yet?
So the credential is changing not for this upcoming year, but yes, there are new guidelines for teachers that will be teaching TK. There's a variety of ways, well, 3 ways that a teacher can prove that they're qualified for teaching TK. They can have a certain number of early childhood units. They can also go through a process where they get an additional program basically from the state. And then the third way is the district can say that if you have this experience, this equates to that unit amount.
Okay, but it hasn't been implemented for us.
No, it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be implemented until the following school year.
23, 24?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Paxton, moving on to another information item, the update to comprehensive school safety plan protocols.
Okay, so we're making some changes to our comprehensive school safety plans. So on this slide are all of the items that must be included in each safety plan. So all safety plans have to include information regarding child abuse reporting, emergency disaster preparedness, procedures to notify teachers of dangerous pupils, discrimination, harassment, intimidation, and bullying policies, school-wide dress code, safe ingress and egress, maintaining a safe and orderly environment, rules and procedures on school discipline, tactile responses to criminal incidences. All safety plans can be revised throughout the school year. So as the school year progresses, schools look at ingress and egress procedures and policies that are implemented to maintain a safe and orderly environment. And as the environment changes, they can make changes to their safety plan to address new needs. And then Superintendent Larson Efferson briefly touched on we're adding some training at the beginning of this year. So we're partnering with California School Resource Association, who will be providing training focused on an active shooter on campus to all site administrators at the end of August. Administrators will then take that training back to their site. And then Tehachapi Police Department and the local fire department were both invited to this training. So in addition to the required elements of the safety plan, TUSD is going to add some additional components to each school safety plan just so that we have some additional continuity between our school sites. Those additional aspects are how to address visitors when they come on campus, consistent practice protocols, so what drills will look like for each school site, having some continuity about fire drills are that has to be done monthly at our elementaries and at our middle school, but twice a year for our high school. So we're adding some additional guidance on that, and then also including earthquake, lockdown, and lockout drills. So our students and staff have the opportunity to practice those drills multiple times throughout the year. And then also we're adding a section in the safety plan that addresses the training plan for students and staff. So not only the drills, but also communicating to them expectations or what to do when something happens on campus, and a timeline for that. And then we're also adding a verification procedure so that we can ensure that all students and staff have been trained and that we have a record of that training. So at the beginning of the school year, school administrators will be reviewing safety protocols, including the additional district protocols when meeting with their staff. School staff will review safety protocols with students at the beginning of the school year and then practicing safety drills throughout the school year. And like I said previously, fire drills, earthquake drills, lockdown and lockout drills. And then the revision of the safety plans must be presented to the school board by March 1st for approval.
If I could interject, Ms. Paxton, one comment is that through the requirements at the state, the specific types of drills we're not required to perform lockdown or lockout drills. We are required to perform the fire drills. So for us, we have been 100% compliant with our board-approved safety plans, but based on current needs and moving things forward in response to the times, we want to ensure that all types of drills are covered within our plans, and that's why we're making this revision to have a protocol and schedule that will be followed by all school sites for all 4 kinds of drills: fire drills, earthquake, lockdown, and lockout. Thank you. Sorry for the interruption.
Actually, since we've already interrupted, mind if I interrupt?
Not at all.
Do we know what it's going to look like for TILA blended yet?
They will need to also go through drills as well because students will be on campus.
Okay, so it's going to happen, it just maybe hasn't been all figured out yet.
Well, they'll have to develop a
Okay.
safety plan just like all the other school sites.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, last slide. So we encourage parents and community members to provide input for school safety plans. The school site council is in charge of developing the school safety plan and ultimately has to approve that safety plan before it comes to the board prior to March 1st. Each school site advertises through Parent Square their open seats for school site council. So if somebody is interested in serving on that, they would need to apply, and then there would be an election for that. However, if you're not on the school site council, you are open to or welcome to attend school site council meetings. They're open to the public, and you can provide input, make comments. However, you just cannot vote on items during a school site council meeting unless you are elected to the school site council. All school safety plans can be viewed by contacting me, and I've attached my email address and phone number. And that is it.
Thank you. Questions and comments?
Yeah, I have a question. Slide number 3, campus visitors. A few years ago, the board approved a device for each of the school sites, whereas all visitors would present the driver's license, they get a printout for the tag, and they do some type of a background check, not criminal, but some. Is that still in use in all the schools?
They are still using the Raptor system. That's
Raptor
in use
system.
at all schools. But we're talking also about if there's an awards assembly going on, how are we going to address all of those visitors coming in to campus? So we're just widening what we're doing or addressing on a larger scale how we're addressing school visitors.
So with the exception of those assemblies, are the Raptor systems in place in all the schools right now?
They're using the Raptor system,
Thanks.
yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on this information item? Thank you, Mrs. Paxton.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to personnel. Welcome, Dr. Romero, back up.
Good evening. Thank you, President Weinstein, board members. So your first item, did you want me to wait for you or can I read it?
You can read that.
Okay, sorry, just wanted to check. Item 8.1 is the first first read for Expanded Learning Opportunities Program, we'd like to add a drama instructor job description. The Expanded Learning Program, if I could refresh your memory, was approved on the February 22nd board meeting. So just like the past job descriptions, we would like to add a drama instructor position. This would increase students' confidence, creativity, communication, oral expression skills, as well as social skills. So again, this is just a first read for your review.
Okay, thank you. Any comments on this first read? All right, item 2 is approval of a CTEIG program, Tehachapi High School Career Technical Education CTE Coordinator.
As previously discussed at the last board meeting, this position was written into the CTEG grant that had been previously approved. This coordinator position, key role would be able to help build out the pathways currently at THS, build new pathways, partnerships, after-school events for our pathways, collaborate, give support for our current pathway teachers, and really work with the local consortium on how we can grow our program better for our students at Tehachapi High School.
Any comments, questions from the board on this item? Any questions, comments from the public? Do I have a motion to approve the CTEIG Program Coordinator?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 3, approval ratification of certificated personnel report. Dr. Romero.
Thank you, President Weinstein. We're still hiring, so please know this isn't a complete list quite yet, but we have 5 certificate employment opportunities of open positions that we are requesting to be approved. We have 2 confidential management positions, as we just are requesting the approval of 2 new site principals at our elementary level. The report also includes the resignations of 4 certificated personnel.
Questions or comments from the board? Questions or comments from the public? Do I have a motion to approve the certificated personnel
Actually,
report?
President, I have a question before we move
Oh,
on.
go ahead, Trustee Kelly.
Thank you. When we have an employee certificated or classified resign, it doesn't make a difference. Are we attempting to have them do a survey or an exit interview or anything like that?
There's never been a formal process here at TUSD. It's always a best practice. I will always, especially if it's a teacher, I try to follow up as soon as I can, because they'll either submit a resignation via school email or in person. So I always like to find out what is occurring, what's going on, what are the concerns. Most of our resignations, I would say about 95% of them, 96% of them, is because we've had a lot of staff move out of state. Not necessarily wanting to leave the district, but moving out of state, or where we have a large amount of staff that are also hitting that retirement age. But I do touch base with them, both classified and certificated. I'm hoping this coming school year, something a little more formal can be developed for the district to use.
Thank you. I appreciate the information.
Do I have a motion to approve, ratify the certificated personnel report?
I'll make the motion.
Kelly, a second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 4, approval, ratification of the classified personnel report.
Thank you, President Weinstein. The classified report includes the staffing of 2 open positions 3 changes in assignments and 4 resignations. We are still in the process of completing hiring as well for classified. So that's why this list looks short. We're in kind of a midpoint right now where people have their applications out, but they haven't turned them quite back in because we're waiting for the mandated clearances such as DOJ and all of those, TB, as well as we're in the middle of setting up various interviews for the next couple of weeks.
Thank you. Questions and comments from the board? Any questions or comments from the public? Do I have a motion to approve, ratify the classified personnel report?
Kelly, make the motion.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 5 is approval of variable term waiver, speech pathologist, 2022-2023.
Thank you, President Weinstein. So the California Commission on Teaching Credentialing has the authority to issue a variable term waiver to certificated candidates that still need to complete additional educator preparation or credentialing programs. The district has submitted a needs to the state of California and to our local county office that was approved at our last board meeting. The following 3 candidates are being brought to the board for approval as they continue to work to completing their program requirements towards being a speech pathologist. The hierarchy of hiring per Ed Code was used to select these candidates, as well as an interview process and clearance of backgrounds.
Questions and comments from the board?
Yeah, real quick. Are 2 of those 3 new to our district?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Questions or comments from the public? Do I have a motion to approve the variable term waiver for speech pathologist?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Second?
Kelly, a second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 6 is approval of another variable term waiver, this time administrative services, 2022-2023.
The California Commission on Teaching Credentialing also has the authority to approve variable term waivers for administrative service credentials for those candidates still pursuing their credentials through an approved education program. The following 2 candidates are being brought to the board for approval as they complete this process.
Okay, questions and comments from the board? Any questions or comments from the public? Do I have a motion to approve the variable term waiver, administrative services?
Make the motion.
Thank you.
Kelly, a second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Item 7, approval of a variable term waiver, teachers, 2022-2023.
Thank you, President Weinstein. The California Commission on Teaching Credentialing has the authority to issue variable term waivers for teacher candidates. As I mentioned previously, there has been a record on file with the California Department of Education in Kern County for these special need positions going into this school year. I am bringing to the board the special need position of a CTE computer science teacher, specifically for Jacobson Middle School.
Questions, comments from the board?
Dr. Romero, can you explain the certificate of completion staff
I'm sorry,
development?
Trustee Kelly, we couldn't hear you.
Can you explain that CTSD to me, please? or to us?
Yes, of course. So there's different pathways, of course, to get a credential. Specifically with CTE credential, they primarily look at your years of service within that industry. So say for example, you went to culinary school. You have a certificate of a chef. You've owned your own restaurant 10, 15 years. They will count that years of service almost as teaching experience. But during that time, they have to still go through professional development. So that's where this waiver comes from, that we still have to provide support to this person under professional development hours.
So, in a way of speaking, the CCSD is equal to a credential, a teaching credential, just under a different heading.
Oops, sorry, it's almost like an authorization for the CTE credential.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Questions or comments from the public? Do I have a motion to approve this variable term waiver for teacher?
Kelly, I make the motion.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 8, approval of provisional internship permits for 2022-2023. Dr. Romero, once again.
Thank you, President Weinstein. So the last item I bring forward to the board is approval for provisionary internship permits that are approved by the California Commission on Teaching Credentialing. These 4 teacher positions are meant so that the candidates listed below have the time needed to complete their programs at an approved educational university that supports the content listed next to their name.
Questions or comments from the board?
It's me again. Are any of these 4 currently on our staff or were on our staff for the 2021-22 school year?
Yes, sir, when?
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Questions or comments from the public? Do I have a motion for the approval of provisional internship permits?
Kelly, I make the motion.
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Kelly. Trustee Comeau? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, Dr. Romero. There being no further business to come before the board, the meeting is adjourned at 6:35 PM. Thank you, everyone, and have a great evening.